long-term bugging out, aka nomadic preparedness. Hey everybody, it's Michael with Asymmetrical Preparedness. While I'm talking about that, I'm going to water my guerrilla gardening area where I plant my Jerusalem artichokes. I planted a lot of extra Jerusalem artichokes here, as well as potatoes and some wild strawberries and stuff like that. But anyway, that's what I'm going to be doing. Nomadic lifestyle, aka bugging out, long-term bugging out. Realistic or not? Depends on the situation, right? A lot of these things are situationally dependent upon not only the situation in the world around us, but our capabilities, our abilities, our skill sets, our gear. I mentioned recently, over the last day or so, whatever it was, about having an opportunity to test a Mammoth Overland trailer for preparedness aspect, for like bugging out and stuff like that. So I haven't done that yet. I'm looking forward to that. But got me to thinking, the nomadic lifestyle, say SHTF happens, Teotihuacan, into the world as we know it, big event, and society's all falling apart, and we basically are forced to become nomads. That is something that we need to address. We need to, well, maybe not need to, I recommend looking into and trying to acquire the ability to be nomadic, because it's something that, like I said, we may be forced into. And if we're forced into the situation, not prepared for it, well, then we're not going to be, we're not going to be good to go. So, us as preppers, I try to look at as many different situations as possible, what's going on in the world around me and stuff like that, so that I can best prepare myself, my family, to survive any of these situations. There are a lot of different situations. There are a lot of different things that can happen, but the more we prepare for any of these eventualities, the better off we will be if any of them do happen. I need to do a little camera readjustment since I'm watering here. Okay, camera readjustment complete. If I don't knock it over with my watering hose here, let me adjust it a little bit better. There we go. Okay. So, nomadic lifestyle. And what kind of things do we need, what kind of capabilities do we need to have to live like that? Well, there's the obvious one. We need shelter, which is what I was talking about with that trailer, with that off-grid trailer with solar capability and all that stuff like that. That's one of them. I'll get into that in a minute. We'll go over that kind of stuff just a little bit later in the video. First, I wanted to address the skill sets, because to me that's more important than gear. You can have all kinds of Gucci gear, and if you don't have the skill sets or the ability to use that gear properly and to its full capability, it doesn't really matter what kind of gear you have. You can have the fanciest trailer, you can have the best rig to get yourself way back in the middle of nowhere, you can be set up like that, and then end up not actually being successful because you don't know how to use the stuff, So that's something I advocate a lot, is having the things you need, but getting out and actually using them, learning about them. Like the gardening I talk about all the time, as well as all your other gear. The stuff we talk about over on Patreon. Links in the description below, by the way. Hundreds of good videos over there, exclusive content, free speech platform. So I don't have to talk in parables there. And I talk a lot about tactical stuff over there. That's kind of stuff that you can't just go down and buy yourself some, high dollar defensive tools and a bunch of Gucci gear, Cry JPC, some, level 4 plates and stuff like that, and think that you're, in Call of Duty and you're G.I. Joe or something like that, or Rambo, because you're not. That'll get you killed. So skills are vital, and knowing how to use your gear and testing your gear, putting it through its paces. That's what I'll talk about a little bit about that trailer. And whether or not that would be a good addition to somebody that's looking at being nomadic. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. Like there's all the bad stuff, but there's good stuff also. There's people that, the whole movement, the van life, and some ways that people approach that I agree with. Some ways that people approach that I don't agree with. But then there's the whole overlanding community, getting out into these remote areas and seeing the sights and enjoying life and stuff like that. That definitely has an application in preparedness. Yes, I'm watering from the top because this is just my guerrilla area and it's all in shade right now anyway. So I know I'll get a comment. I always get a comment about that. But anyway, improving our capabilities is very important. So the number one thing we can do to prepare and to improve our capabilities is our skill sets. Like I've said before, as far as the that side of things, the security defensive stuff that I don't really talk about here, I would take a highly skilled operator with inexpensive cheapo gear over a mall ninja with all the Gucci stuff, because I know that the person knows what they're doing, and that's vitally important. So let's talk about the gear and stuff also, just a sec. All right, camera adjusted again. So the gear and stuff. Like I mentioned, the trailer, I think that would be a good option. The one I'm going to be looking at, hopefully you'll see that video. I'm not actually going to talk about it here. I did a Patreon video talking a little more specifically about that situation and how I'm excited to test that out and to put it through its paces in extremely adverse conditions, which we're looking to do probably early next week. So you guys will probably see it maybe by the end of the week, maybe the week after. I don't know exactly when. That will be a video requiring a lot more editing and stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But putting stuff through its paces. And do you need a high dollar, expensive, professionally built setup like this trailer I'll be testing? Maybe, maybe not. Could you build your own? Maybe. Do you have this? That goes back to skills. Can you get away with a less expensive option? Maybe. Is it going to be as effective and give you the best chance of survival as possible? Maybe not. Maybe. But I really want to go back into like the whole nomadic lifestyle though. I feel that depending on the way the world goes, that we may be forced into a nomadic situation. What does that mean? That means keeping on the move. That means probably what that would look like is I have a feeling that would look like some kind of civil conflict, civil war, revolution 2.0, whatever. I have a feeling that people would have to, units of those bad M-word type people, and homesteaders, preppers, stuff like that, would probably gather together and in some situations have to stay mobile. Now that presents its own challenges though. Primarily, the biggest challenge to me for that is fuel and the ability to keep those vehicles rolling. So with that in mind, I feel that diesel vehicles would be a good option. Another one, I don't really like the idea of electric vehicles, but I'll tell you what, if you have a really nice solar setup and the ability to charge your vehicle off-grid and not plug it in somewhere, that actually, it might actually have an area in preparedness, especially like those e-bikes, those electronic bicycles and or motorcycles the ones that have like the power assist and stuff like that. Yeah, that, might be. But diesel, why do I say diesel? Because diesel, especially the older ones, you can French fry oil, fryer oil, used, filtered, of course, motor oil, transmission fluid, all those petroleum-based products that you can, with doing it properly. I'm not going to go into detail here, so don't just go pour a bunch of used motor oil in your diesel and say, and damage it and say that I told you so. You got to do your research. This goes back to skills and learn how to properly go about it. But diesel gives you a lot of options out there that gas engines don't. And another thing is, there's another thing, I don't know much about it, but there's wood gasifiers. That some people have vehicles set up to be run off of wood gas. And like I said, I don't know much about it, so I'm not going to go into detail about that. But fuel would be an issue, yes. And then depending on your area, water might also be an issue. But the ability to stay on the move and to stay ahead of, whatever's going on, whoever's going after you or trying to find you or things like that, that may be something that is a very advantageous thing to do. So good vehicle, proper vehicle. Let's talk a little bit about that really quick. I would suggest four-wheel drive, definitely. SUV or truck, best option, right? Not a car. First off, I don't know of any four-wheel drive cars in existence. I know all-wheel drive, but that's different. It's not four-wheel drive. But this isn't a channel where I go into that kind of stuff. Look it up. An older vehicle, maybe, that's EMP proof because there's no electronics in it, and much easier to work on for the shade tree mechanic, for the driveway mechanic, things like that. But it needs to be in extremely reliable situation, in reliable condition. There are a lot of good brands out there. I'm not going to actually go into that. I was thinking about going into that, but, starting off with like maybe a plug for Toyota, I don't know. They are very reliable, but there's a lot of other good vehicles out there also for reliability. An FJ40 like this would be pretty cool, but it's small. So think about that, size. What size vehicle do you need for your family, for your group, stuff like that. The off-road capability. And realistically though, for your area, you may not need front and rear lockers, 40-inch tires, all this stuff that goes into it. Because you're not four-wheeling for fun. You're doing it for survival, and you're doing it, you only need the things. I mean, if you got all those things, the better off you'll be, right? The more well-equipped you are mentally, physically, the more physically fit you are, the more things you know, all the skill sets. If you have extra, same with your gear, your vehicle. If it's set up where it's basically way overkill for what you need it, well, then that's good because you may not always be in the perfect situation. More capability is always better. So the nomadic lifestyle, yeah, there are a lot of stuff where this would come into, hunting, fishing, foraging, trapping, snaring, all that kind of stuff would come into play. You wouldn't be able to really garden if you're a nomad. You wouldn't. Unless you did guerrilla gardening plots out in the mountains, in the wilderness, in the woods, whatever it is, and then you could nomadically work your way back to those areas at different points in time. May work depending on your area. It's something I think that preppers need to be talking about, though, because I would like to think that I can just shelter in place. I can bug in, because that's the best situation. But we may be forced to bug out It may be a bug out to another location where you shelter in place there in a better situation, better, more defensible, more, more of everything with your tribe. But it may evolve also into a nomadic situation, which would offer a lot more challenges and a lot more to think about. But I just want to do this video to get you guys, your minds thinking about that and thinking about how to go about it and some things to potentially prepare for. Hope I'm getting my point across. But anyway, I feel it's a valid point. I feel that it's an important topic. Think about it, research it, and start looking at, if you haven't already, what you would need to be able to do that. And then maybe, put that in your need to do list of towards your preps, and start checking those boxes. Start getting those things. Start gaining those skills. Start doing it. That's one thing I love about this overlanding thing. It gives us the opportunity to have fun while we're getting out as a family into these remote areas and exploring, having fun, but also identifying foraging areas, hunting areas, animal sign, bug out locations, water. Where is water? Also gives us the ability to employ and to develop caches in different areas out there, as well as different routes into and out of all these different areas. And being able to mark them on paper maps, GPS, all those kind of things. So it gives us the capability of, if stuff falls apart, we know, because we've done it, we know where to go. We know where we can go. We know where their food is. We know where water is. We maybe have some caches. And we know how multiple ways to get there. This is part of the getting out and doing, actually doing, which I highly encourage you guys. With that, I'll wrap it up. I love you guys. Have a wonderful day, and blessings to you and yours.